Alright, welcome, this is East of Awesome, and today we're going to make another Linocut print. It's going to be this one on the topic of Tempus Fugit. We are going to go through the whole process from the sketching to the carving, then of course the printing. So in the last print I just used the hand pressure to make the print, and since then I bought this. It's an old washing wringer that I transformed into some kind of a makeshift printing press. So today is the day to test it. I'm going to use both techniques to print and compare it. So let's get started. So we start by setting up the working surface. I typically start with creating the document in the size that I want, and then expanding the canvas a little bit, so I have a little bit room on the side for the first scribbles, as you see here, or for ideas or some reference material. Like for example, here you see that I pulled in a picture of the other print that I made in this series to have it there as a reference. And here I'm playing with the ideas that I have in mind. I knew the topic is going to be Tempus Fugit. It's a Latin phrase that is just like memento mori, also often comes up in the context of the Stoic philosophers, and it means time flies in the end. So again, it's something that is quite obvious and clear to everybody. But on the other hand, there are many implications that are connected to this quite simple thought. Like that all around us is going to change quite rapidly, and we can't do anything about it. And we should live in the present moment and be aware that everything around us is not permanent, and it's therefore not that important. And yeah, that's the general idea around it. After I decided on a sketch, I used this method of just duplicating boxes to have easy, fast grid and guidelines for the centers that I have here on a separate layer. So I wasn't totally sure if I could trust my sketch, the anatomy of my sketch, because it's kind of a weird pose, the way that she holds this hourglass. But luckily I found a beautiful long-haired model that posed for me, and here I'm drawing quickly over the photo to have it as an additional reference. This is where the real sketching begins, or the real drawing part. And as you can see, I'm not a very clean drawer. I'm quite messy at this stage, and I'm changing and searching for where the lines are supposed to go quite a lot. But sometimes I find it also interesting to see more of this part and how one really arrives at these final lines that we see in the end. So that's why I left a little bit more of that in here this time. Next step, after I'm satisfied with the sketch or with the drawing, is the inking phase, where I try to finally get these lines precisely the way that I want them, which is in my case quite rough also, but that's how I like to draw and ink, more like the way that you ink with a brush than with just a ballpoint pen or something like this. So, and here of course it's going to be a reference for the cutting later, but I think some of this aesthetic also transfers to the Linocut cut in the end. While we are finishing the inking, a few words about how I decided to illustrate this concept of Tempus Fugit. I knew that I wanted to use a human figure for this piece, and so I decided to try to show time as some kind of a personified natural goddess and give her a few accessories that also link her to the Memento Mori piece. The hourglass, of course, but also her tattoos and the goat skull, for example. And also you see here 8 or an infinity symbol that I tried to show kinda loosely in the flow of the dress and the hairs and the lines in general. I don't know if you noticed that in the end, but I think it's in the flow of the illustration. It is there. So my laser cutter is dead, sadly, so I got some laser prints made in just the copy shop around the corner, and this time to transfer it to the linoleum I used something called photo potch. The last time I used acetone, which wasn't that smoothly, and so I thought, let's try this. And you see that even my copy of Meditations got finally some practical use out of it. Try to find a link to most of the stuff I use here and put it in the description. Okay, we are nearly ready to start with the cutting, but first we should of course take care and prepare our knives, especially since I managed to dull my bigger V knife there. For the sharpening I use a little portable diamond sharpening stone that is quite popular in the outdoor scene, And for the stropping, I used to use this self-made stropping stick here with a green stropping compound. But later I'll invent a new genius thing instead that I use instead. And now I color the linoleum with just with watercolor with a blue tone, so it's easier to see where I still need to cut and where I already did cut. So I start out with this little small U-shaped knife with a number 9 it is. Yeah, that's right, it's blazing fast in real time. I really hope you won't get any motion sickness with all these fast movements. Alright, from now on I speed up most of it, but if you never see it in real time, you don't really have a clue how slow or fast one works, actually. Now that I start working on these letters, I also switch to my V-knife, as the V-shape allows for a finer control and preciser cuts, depending on how deep you cut with it, of course. Overall, I used just 3 different knives for this piece. The small U that I started with, the bigger V, and the latest addition to my collection of these Swiss-made file knives, the very big U for quickly removing large chunks of material, used mainly at the end for the border. Now this part is quite interesting, at least in my eyes. So when comparing this piece with the Memento Mori print, it somehow didn't feel as strong, and the more I thought about it, I realized that the first print had much more large black areas and that this piece also had the potential for more negative space in the background. So I tried it at first here on paper and compared it, and somehow I liked both versions, but in comparison or besides the other print, it was clear to me that I wanted to go with the darker version, and so I started to change it in this print here, but I needed to change the forms that are drawn here in the background to real negative forms. So I cut them out first and then I painted over the areas in black, so that I knew later on that this was supposed to stay and I wouldn't cut it by accident. here again a few shots in real-time speed, so we can all keep in mind how slow the process actually is. And also you can, of course, see way better how exactly I cut finer details in this real speed. Up until this point, everything went quite smoothly, but then when it came to the face, where every error would be completely terrible, okay, don't worry, I didn't screw it up, just wanted you to feel a little bit of the suspense I felt here. What you see here is a little experiment I made, a little tool for stropping the knives and for getting better into the inside of the V or the U-shape knives. I just glued together a few layers of leather, and then with exactly this knife I cut out the groove and added the stropping compound. First opportunity for the big flat knife here in this piece. And after a quick break, it's time to tackle the last carving session and to finish it up. And now all that's left is the very satisfying part of just getting rid of the complete border. Of course here the big flat knife really comes in handy, but you can get it done with a smaller knife, of course, but it saves time. Okay, so finally it's ready and time for the first test prints and for the printing in general. I would like to start with making of the first prints by hand. The last time I marked it with some kind of tape directly on the table here, and this time I think I will try this piece of plastic I bought a while ago. So we have this, we have this for marking. Then right down here I have a thick piece of glass, which was an old kitchen glass thing for cutting. And this is nice and thick. Put the color on top. Then we have here, this is the roller I used the last time. This is the new roller because it's bigger. Some colors, a brush to clean out the linoleum, a drawing knife to mix the color, and the printing pressure thingy. Guess that's it. And then what more do we need? Paper. If you want to make prints, paper is a fantastic idea. So I have a little bit of copy paper here, but this is not what we are going to use in the end, of course. And the rest of the paper behind here. So this is a little folder, a little folder for the printing papers that I've got. I made a while ago, and this here is the paper that I used the last time for the Memento Mori print. So let's put this here as a reference, and then in order to cut the paper or to rip the paper, I need space. Good that I put everything here, so now I can put it away again. This is a dark grayish blue print. I want this to be a dark grayish brown. So we need a brown, sienna brown, a black and a white to accomplish this, I think. Take this paper with a little bit of a coffee stain, I guess, on the back to make it the official first one. So I'm aligning it here on the side so it is straight, and then letting it just fall down here. Here we will probably need a little bit more pressure, because it's a rougher paper than the smooth copy paper. Exciting! Oh yeah, that's quite a difference. The brown and the yellowish paper looks awesome, I think. On the top and mainly in the middle is where I need more pressure. Of course, we have a lot of grittiness in these prints, which is due to the fact of the hand printing without a press and the very rough paper, but I really like it this way, and we'll see how they are going to turn out with the press in comparison. But let's make the first prints, hand prints. So here you see me thinking about a problem that I hadn't thought about when setting up the press so far, is how to hold the felt, because if I'm going to print and getting the paper from the linoleum where the print color is on, then I can't let the felt fall on this, of course, so I had to come up with a way of holding it, and since it is iron, the whole thing, a magnet worked very well. So as you see, I'm still experimenting with the pressure, and not everything is working perfectly, like the magnet here, but it's working so far, and I'm quite happy with the results that I'm getting from this press and with the consistency that I'm able to achieve with this method. And just like in the Memento Mori print, I also wanted to feature this hand-carved stamp with the EOA, with the East of Awesome logo here. And then I numbered the prints. I'll limit this print run again to 500 prints, and it's done. Alright, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed the process. We finally have the finished print in our hands, and you can head over to eastofawesome.com if you are interested in getting one of these for yourself. For me, all that's left to do is, of course, find a place to hang it here myself. So I think we should get it right there, because on top of this there's the Memento Mori print, and I think as it is a kind of a series, I think they should live together. So let me try and make some place for this.